Hi everybody, 860 Cologne here with another fragrance video. This time it's my turn to do the top 10 designer fragrances of all time. I want to thank Augie from Your Two Cents for tagging me in this video, and it's been rather difficult. Number 10, the fragrance that got me into fragrance. I have to put this one in, Joop. This came out in 1989 and I absolutely fell in love with it. It is a love-or-hate fragrance, I know that, but just from being the fragrance that got me into fragrance, I had to put this fragrance in there, and it still gives me that eyes rolling in the back of my head reaction when I smell it. So I had to put that one in there. Next up, the original Fahrenheit. Another controversial one. I know Ashton had this in his as well. I actually didn't wear this fragrance or even own it until a few years ago, because when I was growing up, everybody wore this thing. So just from the impact it had on the fragrance community, I had to put this in there, and it's just a great fragrance that to me does not smell dated at all and still is very, very relevant. Next up, another fantastic fragrance, Gucci Pour Homme 1. This one I was extremely lucky to pick up recently for a really good price, and am so glad because it really is one of the best designer fragrances I think that were ever released. If it was more widely available now, and if I wasn't afraid of wearing it all that often, I'd probably have it higher, but it just, still has an impact on the community today. And, oh, you see my little cards there. And just a great fragrance. If it wasn't for some other fragrances like the Bentley Absolute that are so close to it that I think they could replace it, this one would probably be higher as well. Next up, from Chanel, my only Chanel in the whole list, Antaeus. This is just an old school, fantastic fragrance. It's a classic. It has an animalic quality. Absolutely love this fragrance, and another one that I've got to start wearing more because I'm a little bit afraid to put it on and be done with it, because I'm not sure if the modern iteration of this one is up to par with what I have, but it's fantastic fragrance. Now we're going to get to the fragrance that I absolutely love but cannot find right now. I know I have at least 2 bottles of this, and for some reason I can't find either one, but this is Prada Homme or Prada Amber. This had a big impact on the fragrance community and still has a big impact to my nose when I smell it, because it just still smells great to this day. Love this fragrance. It's unique. I always liken it to smelling, fresh and clean, but I liken it to smelling like a really expensive window cleaner, if that makes sense to anybody. But that's the one that I really, really like a lot. All right, now into my top 5. Number 5, Terre d'Hermès. This is one of the first fragrances that I actually had to get a new bottle because I ran out of the original one, and it was actually one of my first blind buys because I used to hang out on base notes all the time, and I heard people talking about this, so I just blind bought this one, and they were right. I fell in love. It's remained a staple in my collection ever since. Fantastic. Number 5, Terre d'Hermès. Now the only Mugler that comes into my top 10, this is MEN Pure Malt. This fragrance surpasses the original, and this is what makes it my number 4 fragrance, because I think it's just much more wearable. It can be worn in a lot of different situations, and to me this is just a much more versatile scent than the original Amen, and the added whiskey malted component here really makes it one of the best Amens that I've ever smelled. Number 4, Amen Pure Malt. Number 3, Dior Homme. This fragrance took me by surprise when I first smelled it. I think it was actually in Sephora. My bottle's a little bit older, not quite vintage at all. This is, I think, a 1Q02. I'll put up on the screen what exactly year that correlates to, but even just taking this one out of the box, I could get that iris note, and it still is just a fantastic fragrance to wear out on a night out. Just a dress to impress fragrance. Smells amazing. Number 3, Dior Homme. Number 2, the second Dior listed here, right back to back, Dior Eau Sauvage Parfum. This is such a thick, resinous, fantastic fragrance. For a designer fragrance, this is what made Dior great before they absolutely went to crap in the past 5 or 6 years. This fragrance, and they've even redone this one. I don't think I've smelled the new one, but I hear it's watered down and just a faint resemblance of this one. This would be probably my number 1 if it wasn't for the fact that it is so thick and resinous that this is really a fall and winter scent. Maybe in spring, but just the versatility isn't there. But for stretching the boundaries of a designer scent, this one really hits the mark. And if you haven't smelled it yet, hopefully you can get a hold of an older bottle and really smell what this one was all about when Dior was really good with fragrances. Number 2, Eau Sauvage Parfum. Number 1, Tom Ford Grey Vetiver. This fragrance still, it hits all the marks on versatility, on the initial reaction and continued reaction. This is the Eau de Parfum. I absolutely love this fragrance. I can sense this on someone and instantly know what it is. It may just be a simple vetiver fragrance, but it's a unique designer fragrance. Now, I consider this portion of Tom Ford to be designer. I don't consider the private blends to be designer. I consider those to be niche, partially because of the price and also because of the availability. I know some of the Sephoras nowadays actually do have the private blends, but for the most part you can't really buy the private blends at a typical Macy's or Dillard's or any place like that, but they should have this line along with like Black Orchid and the other Tom Ford Noir and stuff like that. This is just one of those fragrances that never disappoints for me. So there they are, my top 10 best designers of all time. Let me know what you think of these fragrances in the top 10 and in the honorable mentions. Again, thanks to everybody who has participated in this tag video series here, and special thanks to Augie for tagging me in this. And I want to pass it along. I'm not sure if he's been tagged yet, but I want to tag Brad BP Wool and see what his are. So thanks a lot for watching, and I will talk to you soon.